Chapter 4, Kidnapped. It was better than being in a play at school, better even than being an actress on stage. On a stage or on the screen, people knew it was just a story being acted out. But here, in a lighted window in front of the Hatford boys, who were undoubtedly watching from out in the bushes somewhere, Caroline's role was to convince the boys that she was really, truly terrified. She called upon everything she had ever learned about being frightened. In fact, whenever she was angry or embarrassed, frightened, or sad, she turned it into something to remember, how it felt in her chest. Was her brow furrowed? Were her lips pursed? Were her eyes squinting or open wide? However she found herself, she added it to her memory bank. And now she brought forth everything she knew and played the role of being frightened for all it was worth. "Oh, Beth, what will we do? What will we do?" she cried, putting panic in her voice. She had to admit that Beth played the part well, too, for her older sister rushed from room to room, hand to throat. "Ow!" came from outside the window. After 5 or 6 minutes, however, the wolf cries grew fainter and fainter until they were gone entirely. Caroline and Beth turned out the light in the living room and sat on the couch where the boys couldn't see them, shrieking with laughter. "You were terrified, Beth. Really, your face looked so worried. And the way we ran around locking doors and windows." There was the sound of someone fumbling with the back doorknob. "Should we answer?" asked Beth. "Could be Eddie," said Caroline. There stood Peter Hatford in his bunny slippers. "Hi," he said. "Eddie invited me in for some root beer." "Yes," said Eddie. "I went outside for a little walk and happened to find Peter sitting on a rock at the end of our driveway. Seems as though his brothers left him there, so we decided to play a little joke on them. We hid in the bushes, and after they went home, I invited Peter in for some root beer." "Oh, sure, 1 root beer coming up," said Caroline. "How about some ice cream in it?" asked Beth. "Did you ever have a root beer float?" Peter nodded eagerly, and within minutes a large glass of foaming root beer and ice cream was set in front of him with a plastic straw. Peter drank with loud gulps and swallows, stopping occasionally to grin and wipe the back of his hand. Beth fixed floats for the rest of them, and they sat with Peter around the table. Caroline studied the Hatford's little brother. He was 7 and she was 8, but he was a young 7 and she was almost 9. She always felt like a much older sister when she was around Peter. "Do you and your brothers always sneak around outside after dark, Peter?" she asked. Peter shook his head, his cheeks sunken as he sucked on the straw. "Only sometimes." "What exactly were you trying to do?" "I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting." "Well, what were your brothers trying to do then?" "Just, playing, making noises and stuff." "What were they playing?" Even though Caroline and her sisters knew exactly what the boys had been up to, it was delicious getting Peter to spill the beans. Peter didn't answer. "Wolf, I'll bet," said Beth. "How'd you know?" "Just a guess." "What did they do? Take you with them and then forget all about you?" "Yep, that's what they did," said Peter. "Wally set me down on that rock, and he said to stay there until they, until they what?" "Until they came back." The phone rang. More smiles. Beth got up and answered. It was Wally's voice on the end, and she held the receiver out away from her so that Caroline and Eddie could hear it too. This is Wally. Listen, have you seen Peter?" Beth turned toward the others there at the table and put her finger to her lips. Caroline and Eddie motioned to Peter not to make a sound. "What are you talking about?" Beth asked. Now there was panic in Wally's voice. Caroline almost felt sorry for him, but not quite. "Are you sure you don't know where he is?" Wally asked. "Can't you even keep track of your own brother?" asked Beth. "I'll bet you guys were supposed to be sitting Peter and forgot all about him." "We did not. We told him. I mean, the last we saw, he was..." "Sorry," said Beth, and she hung up the phone. The 3 girls broke into laughter. Even Peter was smiling at his straw sucked noisily to the root beer in the bottom of the glass. "Boy, Wally's going to be sorry he left me on that rock." The phone rang again. This time it was Jake. "Listen, if Peter's over there, you'd better tell me," he demanded. "What would he be doing over here?" "He's probably supposed to be in bed," said Beth. "Have you looked?" "Maybe he got tired and went to bed." "Beth, yes or no? Is Peter there or not?" Then Wally's voice in the background. "Jake, they're home!" And Jake hung up.